The giant space station hung in the dark like a metal city. Ships from across the galaxy came and went from its docking bays. Inside the main hall, alien beings sat around a huge table made of crystal. Their voices echoed off the walls as they argued. Ambassador Zethkar slammed his clawed hand on the table. His yellow eyes burned with anger. The tall reptile creature stood up and pointed at the human in the center of the room. "These humans think they can ignore our laws," he hissed through sharp teeth. "Every other species gave up their weapons. When they joined us, every species follows our rules. But not the humans." The other aliens nodded and made sounds of agreement. Some had tentacles that moved like angry snakes. Others looked like walking crystals that sparkled in the light. A few were just balls of light that floated above their chairs. Commander Jake Morrison stood calm in the middle of all the noise. His blue uniform was clean and pressed. Next to him, Admiral Lisa Rodriguez kept her face blank even though hostile. Eyes stared at them from every direction. The space station was called Nexus Prime. It was the center of the Galactic Council. For 300 years, the Council had kept peace in this part of space. They did it by being the strongest. When new species joined the galaxy community, they had to give up their weapons. The Council would protect them instead. It worked well. No wars, no fighting. Just peace under Council rule. All species agreed to this deal. All except humans. High Inquisitor Velteth spoke next. His tentacles waved as he talked. The humans have only 12 ships. Their technology is old compared to ours. Their weapons are weak, but they refuse to give them up. Other council members laughed. The sound was not friendly. "We offered you protection," said another alien that looked like a walking tree. "We offered you peace. Why do you choose violence instead?" Jake stepped forward. His voice was steady and clear. "We have never attacked anyone. Our ships stay in human space. We have good relations with all council members. We just want to keep our right to defend ourselves." "There is nothing to defend against," Zethkar snapped. "The council protects everyone." "Your weapons are not needed. Then why does it bother you that we have them?" Admiral Rodriguez asked. The question made the aliens uncomfortable. They shifted in their seats and made angry noises. "Because armed species are dangerous," Velteth said. "Weapons lead to war. War leads to death. We ended all of that when we created the council." Jake looked around the room. He saw fear in their alien faces. These beings had forgotten what it meant to fight for themselves. They had grown soft under council protection. "What if the council cannot protect someone?" Jake asked. "What if a threat comes that you cannot handle?" More laughter filled the room. But this time it sounded nervous. "Impossible," Zethkar said. "The reptilian hegemony has 10,000 ships. The crystalline collective can destroy planets with their energy weapons. The hive mind controls millions of drone vessels that fight as one. What could possibly threaten us?" Rodriguez and Jake exchanged a look. They had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Humanity had hoped that diplomacy would work. They had tried to find a peaceful solution, but they always knew it might come to this. "We still refuse to give up our weapons," Rodriguez said clearly. The chamber erupted. Aliens shouted in dozens of different languages. Some pounded the table. Others made threatening gestures. Zethkar raised his hand and the room went quiet. His voice was cold when he spoke. "Then you have chosen your path. The council will give you 6 months to reconsider. If you do not surrender your weapons by then, we will take them from you." "And if we resist?" Jake asked. "Then you will be destroyed," Zethkar said simply. 12 human ships against the might of the entire Galactic Council. It will not even be a real battle. The other aliens nodded and made sounds of agreement again. They seemed to find the idea amusing. Jake and Rodriguez said nothing more. They turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind them, the aliens continued to laugh and joke about the foolish humans who thought they could fight the council, but the 2 humans were not worried. They had a secret that the council did not know about. Humanity had not spent 50 years building just 12 ships. They had spent 50 years learning how to win a war against impossible odds. The aliens thought human technology was primitive. They thought human weapons were weak. They looked at 12 ships and saw an easy victory they did not understand. That humans came from a world where everything tried to kill them. They did not know that humans had fought wars for thousands of years before reaching space. They had no idea that human military thinking was different from anything the galaxy had ever seen. The council members continued their meeting after the humans left. They discussed how to divide up human territory after the conquest. They argued about which species would get which planets. None of them wondered why the humans seemed so calm when facing certain defeat. None of them asked why two people would stand against the entire galaxy. Without showing fear, if they had asked those questions, they might have learned something important. They might have discovered that when humans say they will defend themselves, they mean it. They might have realized that 12 ships can be more dangerous than 10,000. If those 12 ships are crewed by the right people, but the aliens did not ask. They just laughed and made their plans. 6 months later, they would learn the truth about human warfare. They would discover what happens when a species that evolved to survive meets species that evolved to be protected. The lesson would be written in burning ships and broken fleets across the stars. 6 months passed quickly. The deadline came and went. Humanity refused to surrender their weapons. Now the Galactic Council had to keep their promise. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance. Through the main screen she could see stars in empty space. But her sensors told a different story. A massive enemy fleet waited just beyond the edge of human territory. "Report," she said to the tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Peter Walsh checked his instruments. 800 alien ships, Admiral. We have reptilian dreadnoughts, crystalline energy cruisers, and hive drone swarms. They are holding position. At the border, Rodriguez nodded. She had expected this. The Council was being careful. They sent enough ships to crush any resistance, but not their entire fleet. They wanted to show strength without looking like they were afraid of 12 human vessels. "Only 800, she said with a small smile. "They are still underestimating us." Captain Danny Chun stepped up beside her. He commanded the Defiance, but Rodriguez was the fleet admiral. "Ma'am, all other ships report ready." Captain Sullivan. "On the Vengeance confirms that the special equipment is working. Captain Thompson on the Retribution says his crew is prepared. All captains are waiting for your orders." Rodriguez looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, 800 alien warships were preparing to attack. The enemy commanders probably thought this would be easy. 12 human ships against 800. Simple math, but humans had learned something during their long history of war. Numbers did not always decide the winner. Sometimes a smaller force could beat a larger one. It happened when the smaller force had better tactics, better technology, or better understanding of what war really meant. The aliens had bigger fleets and stronger weapons. But they had not fought a real war in 3 centuries. They had forgotten the lessons that only came from actual combat. Humans remembered those lessons. More than that, they had learned new ones. "Initiate Protocol Omega," Rodriguez commanded. The order went out to all 12 human ships. On each vessel, captains began sequences they had practiced hundreds of times. Crews moved to battle stations they knew by heart. Engineers started systems that the galaxy had never seen before on the UES Vengeance. Captain Kate Sullivan watched her chief engineer work. Ryan Murphy had spent 10 years perfecting the quantum displacement drive. It was based on theories that human scientists developed in secret. "Quantum displacement drive online," Murphy reported. "All systems showing green lights." "Excellent," Sullivan said. "Time to show them what humans can really do." The same scene played out on all 12 ships. The UES Retribution, commanded by Captain Gary Thompson. The UES Nemesis under Captain Helen Foster. The UES Fury with Captain Steve Barnes. Each ship activated technology that broke every rule the aliens thought they knew about space combat. One moment, 12 human ships hung in space near Earth. The next moment, they simply disappeared on his flagship Devastator. High Admiral Zethkar stared at his sensors in confusion. His tactical officer, a young reptilian named Corthan, kept checking and rechecking his instruments. "Sir, the human ships are gone. They just vanished from all sensors." "Impossible," Zethkar growled. "Ships cannot just disappear. They must be using some kind of stealth technology. Spread the fleet out. Search every asteroid and every piece of debris. Find them." The 800 alien ships began to spread across the system. They used every kind of sensor they had. Energy detectors, mass scanners, heat seekers, quantum field analyzers. Nothing worked. The human ships had vanished completely. "Sir," Corthan said nervously, "what if they retreated? What if they ran away?" "Cowards," Zethkar spat. "I expected more fight from the species that claimed they would defend themselves. Continue searching. They have to be somewhere, but the humans had not run away. They were closer than the aliens could imagine. The quantum displacement drive did not make ships invisible. It moved them slightly out of normal space-time. The ships existed in the same place, but in a different dimensional phase. They could see everything around them, but could not be seen or detected. It was technology that took 30 years to develop. Human scientists had worked in secret, knowing this day would come. They studied quantum physics and dimensional theory. They built and tested prototypes in hidden bases the aliens never suspected. They thought human science was primitive. They believed human technology was centuries behind their own. They were wrong. "Target acquired," Captain Thompson reported. From the Retribution. His ship had moved into position next to a crystalline cruiser. The enemy vessel had no idea Death was floating just meters away. "All ships report ready," came the voice of Captain Sullivan over the communication system. "Waiting for your order, Admiral." Rodriguez studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was spread out, searching for targets they would never find with conventional sensors. "Perfect. Begin the attack," she ordered. "Show them what Protocol Omega really means." The first alien ship to die was the crystalline cruiser. Shard of light, the UES Retribution materialized just long enough to fire a full spread of quantum torpedoes, then vanished again before the enemy could react. The cruiser exploded in a ball of superheated plasma before the aliens could process what happened. 2 more ships suffered the same fate. Human vessels appeared like ghosts, struck with deadly precision, then faded back into dimensional phase. "Contact!" Corthan shouted. "Human ship decloaking off our starboard side." The UES Vengeance appeared next to the Devastator. Captain Sullivan's crew unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, particle beams. The reptilian flagship's shields flared and buckled under the assault, but before Zethkar could order return fire, the human ship vanished again. "Where did it go?" he roared. "Shoot at something." His weapons officers fired blindly into empty space. Energy beams and missiles flew in all directions, hitting nothing but vacuum. Throughout the alien formation, the same scene repeated. Human ships appeared without warning, delivered devastating attacks, then disappeared before the enemy could respond. It was like fighting ghosts, but the quantum displacement drives were only part of humanity's secret weapon. Captain Foster watched from the bridge of the Nemesis as alien ships began to suffer system failures. Power cores destabilized for no apparent reason. Weapon systems shut down randomly. Life support began failing on ships that had not even been hit. The aliens did not know that every human torpedo carried a special payload. Along with explosive warheads, they delivered clouds of microscopic machines, nanobots that could infiltrate alien computer systems and turn their own technology against them. While the Council species had developed bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had perfected something far more dangerous. They had learned to make the enemy defeat themselves. Within 1 hour, half the alien fleet was destroyed or disabled. The other half was running away as fast as their engines could carry them. Zethkar's flagship limped back toward Council space with 1/3 of its crew dead and most systems failing. The proud High Admiral sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display in shock. 800 ships reduced to 460 minutes. Not by a superior enemy fleet, but by 12 vessels using tactics and technology the galaxy had never seen, for the first time in 3 centuries. The Galactic Council had lost a battle, and they were starting to realize they had no idea who they were really fighting. The news traveled fast across the galaxy. 800 Council ships defeated by 12 human vessels. At first, nobody believed it. The reports had to be wrong. Numbers like that were impossible, but the evidence could not be denied. Burning. Wrecks drifted through space. Disabled alien ships sent distress calls. Survivors told the same incredible story over and over. The humans had vanished and reappeared like ghosts. Their weapons did things that should not be possible. They had turned the aliens' own technology against them, on the Council homeworlds. Emergency meetings were called. Leaders who had ruled the galaxy for centuries suddenly found themselves asking questions they had never needed to ask before. How had they been so wrong about human capabilities? High Inquisitor Velteth floated in his tank of liquid methane, his tentacles writhing with agitation. Around him, holographic displays showed the battle reports from the human border. Each image made him more uncomfortable. The humans use some kind of phase technology, reported his science advisor. Our sensors could not track them. They appeared and disappeared at will. And the system failures? Velteth asked. Unknown. Ships that were never hit still lost power and weapons. It was as if their own computers turned against them. Velteth's tentacles coiled tighter. In 300 years of Council rule, nothing like this had ever happened. Other species had tried to resist Council authority before. They were always crushed quickly and completely, but humans were different. They fought like no other species. The galaxy had encountered, on the crystalline world of Prism, the collective's ruling council gathered in their great hall. The crystal beings communicated through light patterns that flickered across their surfaces like living rainbows. The mathematical probability of 12 ships defeating 800 approaches 0, pulsed the prime crystal. Yet it happened. How do we explain this anomaly? Perhaps the humans possess technology we do not understand, suggested another crystal. Their phase shift capability was unknown to our databases? Then we must learn more, the prime crystal decided. Send probe ships to study human technology? We need to understand what we are facing. But when the probes reached human space, they found something unexpected. The 12 human warships were gone. In their place sat hundreds of vessels under construction. Shipyards that had been hidden were now working openly. Manufacturing stations that did not exist a month ago were building weapons and equipment. It was as if humanity had been preparing for this war for decades. On Earth, President Robert Kennedy met with his military advisors in a bunker deep underground. The room was full of screens showing alien fleet movements across the galaxy. Status report, Kennedy said. General Patricia Hayes pointed to a tactical display. The Council is mobilizing everything they have. Mr. President, intelligence reports suggest they are preparing to send 5,000 ships against us. 5,000, Kennedy repeated. And we have 12 operational vessels. 14 now, sir, corrected Admiral Rodriguez, who had returned from the battle. The Judgment and the Liberty finished construction yesterday. 16 more will be ready within the month. Kennedy nodded. The public did not know about humanity's secret military program. For 50 years, the best minds on Earth had worked in hidden facilities. They had studied alien technology captured from traders and diplomats. They had developed countermeasures. For every known Council weapon system, most importantly, they had prepared for the day when diplomacy would fail. What about the nanobots? Kennedy asked. Dr. Elena Martinez stepped forward. She was the chief scientist behind humanity's most dangerous weapon. The first generation performed better than expected, sir. Council ships are still suffering system failures from the initial attack. Their computer systems cannot purge the nanobots, and the second generation. Martinez smiled grimly. Ready for deployment. These are designed to spread from ship to ship through communication networks. One infected vessel can disable an entire fleet within hours. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not just built better ships or stronger weapons. They had created a virus that could turn the Council's own technology into a weapon against them. "Sir," General Hayes said carefully, "are we sure we want to use this? Once we deploy the second-generation nanobots, there may be no way to control them. They could spread to civilian systems." Kennedy was quiet for a long moment. The decision he made now would affect the entire galaxy. Humanity could choose to fight a conventional war against overwhelming odds, or they could use their secret weapon and risk consequences no one could predict. "The Council gave us a choice," Kennedy said finally. "Submit or be destroyed." They made their intentions clear. "So what are your orders, sir?" Rodriguez asked. "We defend ourselves," Kennedy said, "whatever it takes." While humanity prepared for the next battle, the Council continued to underestimate their enemy. The alien leaders could not accept that a young species with primitive technology had outsmarted them. They convinced themselves that the first battle was just luck. The humans had used some kind of trick, but it would not work twice. A larger fleet with better preparation would crush the human resistance easily. They were wrong again, but a few aliens were beginning to understand the truth on a small science station orbiting a dead star. A crystalline researcher named Facet studied the battle recordings for the 100th time. Unlike his leaders, Facet had spent years studying human culture. He had read their history books and watched their entertainment. He knew things about humanity that the Council had dismissed as unimportant. Humans came from a world where survival was never guaranteed. They had evolved as hunters and prey at the same time. They had spent their entire existence fighting against creatures, environments, and each other. Most species developed space travel after achieving peace on their homeworlds. Humans had reached the stars while still fighting wars among themselves. The difference was important. The Council races had forgotten how to fight because they had not needed to for centuries. Humans had never stopped fighting because their world had never let them. Facet's analysis led to a disturbing conclusion. The 12 ships were not humanity's entire military force. They were just the beginning. The real human fleet was still being built, and it would be designed from the ground up to fight the Council. He tried to send his findings to the Council leadership, but his warnings were ignored. The alien leaders were too proud to believe that. A primitive species could teach them anything about warfare. They would learn the truth soon enough. The second battle was only weeks away. When it came, the Council would discover that facing humans in space combat was like trying to fight their own nightmares, because humans had spent 50,000 years learning one simple lesson that the peaceful Council races had forgotten. In a hostile universe, the species that survives is not the strongest or the smartest. It is the one that refuses to give up, no matter how bad the odds become, and humans had never learned how to surrender. The Second Council fleet was massive. 5,000 ships from across the galaxy gathered at the edge of human space. This time, the aliens were taking no chances. Every major species contributed their best vessels and most experienced crews. Admiral Zethkar commanded from a new flagship, the Annihilator. His previous ship, the Devastator, was still being repaired from the nanobots that had infected its systems. The experience had taught him to respect human cunning, but it had not taught him to fear it. "This time will be different," he told his assembled fleet commanders. "We know about their phase technology now. We have developed countermeasures. Our sensors have been upgraded to detect dimensional shifts." The other alien commanders nodded in agreement. They had spent months preparing for this battle. New weapons had been built. Shield systems had been improved. Communication networks had been hardened against electronic attack. Most importantly, they had brought overwhelming force. 5,000 ships against what intelligence reports suggested was now 30 human vessels. Even with their tricks and advanced technology, the humans could not possibly win against such odds, or so they thought, on Earth. The war room buzzed with activity. President Kennedy stood before a massive display showing the alien fleet formation. Military advisors and scientists crowded around tables covered with tactical plans and technical readouts. They learned from the first battle, Admiral Rodriguez reported. New sensor systems, hardened communication networks, improved coordination protocols. They are not going to be caught off guard this time. What about our force strength? Kennedy asked. 37 operational vessels, Rodriguez replied, all equipped with quantum displacement drives and second-generation nanobots. Plus some new surprises they have not seen yet? Dr. Martinez stepped forward with a datapad in her hands. The chief scientist looked tired but determined. Mr. President, I need to brief you on what we are really deploying. The second-generation nanobots are not just computer viruses. They are self-replicating, adaptive, and designed to spread through any electronic system they encounter. Meaning? Kennedy asked. Meaning once we release them, they will not stop. With enemy military systems, they will spread to civilian networks, trade computers, even personal devices. Every piece of alien technology in the galaxy could be affected. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. Humanity was preparing to deploy a weapon that could cripple galactic civilization. Is there any way to control them once they are released? Kennedy asked. Martinez shook her head. We designed them to be unstoppable. That was the point. But it means we cannot limit their effects or call them back, General Hayes spoke up. Sir, we could be looking at the collapse of interstellar commerce. Communication networks, even life support systems on space stations. The casualties could number in the billions. Kennedy was quiet for a long moment. The weight of the decision pressed down on him like a physical force. In his hands lay the power to end the war quickly and completely. But the cost would be enormous. What are our alternatives? He asked finally. Conventional warfare, Rodriguez answered. We fight ship to ship, battle by battle, until one side is defeated. It could take years and cost millions of lives on both sides, or surrender, added General Hayes quietly. Accept Council authority and hope they allow humanity to survive as a subjugated species. Kennedy looked around the room at the faces of his advisors. These people had worked for decades to give humanity the tools to defend itself. They had sacrificed everything to preserve human independence. The Council made their choice when they threatened to destroy us, Kennedy said. We gave them chances to find a peaceful solution. They refused every offer of compromise. He turned to Martinez. Deploy the nanobots, all of them. The order went out to the human fleet. 37 ships prepared to face 5,000 enemy vessels. The odds were impossible by any normal calculation. But humans had never followed normal calculations, Captain. Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance as her ship phased into normal space near the alien fleet. Around her, the other human vessels materialized in perfect formation. They looked tiny compared to the massive Council armada that surrounded them. All ships report ready, came Rodriguez's voice over the communication system. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for the right of every species to choose their own path. The battle began immediately. Council ships opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, particle cannons, quantum missiles, and gravity weapons filled space with deadly light. The alien commanders were determined not to let the humans disappear again, but humanity had learned new tricks since the first battle. The UES Fury, commanded by Captain Barnes, took the first hit. Its shields flared and buckled under a concentrated barrage from a dozen enemy vessels. But instead of exploding, the ship simply faded out of existence. It reappeared moments later, behind the attacking ships, completely undamaged. Temporal displacement. Successful, Barnes reported calmly. Moving to attack position. The aliens had prepared for phase technology that moved ships through space. They had not prepared for technology that moved ships through time. Human vessels began jumping backward and forward in time by seconds or minutes. They appeared in multiple locations simultaneously. Enemy fire passed harmlessly through temporal echoes, while real attacks came from impossible angles, but the temporal drives were just a distraction. The real weapon was already spreading through. The alien fleet on the Annihilator, Zethkar watched his tactical displays with growing confusion. Human ships seemed to be everywhere at once. His sensors showed conflicting readings. Weapons locked onto targets that vanished before missiles could reach them. "Sir," Corthan reported with panic in his voice, "we are losing communication with the outer fleet elements. Ships are reporting system failures across all networks." "The nanobots again?" Zethkar growled. "Worse, sir. These are spreading from ship to ship through our communication links. Every vessel that receives a transmission becomes infected." Zethkar realized the trap too late. The Council fleet's greatest strength was its coordination. 5,000 ships acting as one unified force. But that coordination required constant communication. The humans had turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Across the alien fleet, ships began shutting down. First weapon systems failed, then shields, then engines. Crews found themselves trapped in metal coffins as life support systems turned against them. Some captains tried to isolate their vessels by cutting all communication links. But the nanobots had already spread too far. They jumped from ship to ship through sensor beams, navigation signals, even emergency transponders. In less than 2 hours, the most powerful fleet in galactic history was reduced to drifting scrap metal, but the nanobots did not stop there. They continued spreading through the galaxy's communication networks. Trade vessels, civilian transports, space stations, and planetary networks all became infected. Within days, galactic civilization ground to a halt. Interstellar commerce collapsed. Communication between worlds failed. Even basic services like weather monitoring and traffic control stopped working. The Council had wanted to destroy humanity, to preserve their peaceful galaxy. Instead, they had forced humans to destroy the galaxy to preserve themselves. On Earth, President Kennedy received reports of the spreading chaos with a heavy heart. He had saved his species, but at a cost that would be remembered for generations. "How long before we can regain control?" he asked Dr. Martinez. "We cannot," she replied simply. "The nanobots are designed to be unstoppable. They will continue spreading until every piece of electronic technology in the galaxy is infected or destroyed." Kennedy nodded slowly. Humanity had won the war, but they had also inherited responsibility for the mess they had created. "Then we had better start thinking about what comes next," he said. "Because like it or not, we are going to have to help rebuild what we just broke." The age of Council rule was over. The age of human responsibility was about to begin, and neither the galaxy nor humanity itself was prepared for what that would mean. 2 years had passed since the nanobots spread across the galaxy. The aftermath was worse than anyone had imagined. Entire civilizations had collapsed when their technology failed. Trade routes that had existed for centuries simply stopped working. Billions of beings found themselves cut off from the rest of the galaxy, but something unexpected happened in the chaos. Instead of letting alien species suffer and die, humanity chose to help. President Kennedy stood in the rebuilt council chambers. But now they looked very different. The crystal table was gone, replaced by a simple wooden one built on Earth. Alien representatives sat alongside human officials, working together instead of fighting. "Status report," Kennedy said to the mixed group of beings around the table. Admiral Rodriguez, now promoted to Secretary of Galactic Affairs, consulted her notes. "The reptilian worlds have restored basic communication networks using our hardened systems. The Crystalline Collective has agreed to share their energy technology in exchange for nanobotic immunity protocols." "What about the hive mind?" Kennedy asked. "Interesting development there," Rodriguez replied. "When their control networks failed, individual drones gained independence for the first time. Most chose to stay free rather than reconnect to the central mind. They are forming democratic councils based on human models." Kennedy nodded. The changes were happening faster than anyone expected. Species that had been unified under council rule for centuries were discovering new ways to govern themselves. Dr. Martinez entered the chamber carrying a data pad. She looked much older than her years, worn down by the weight of what her creations had done to the galaxy. "Doctor," Kennedy said gently, "what do you have for us? Good news and bad news, Mr. President?" "The good news is that we have successfully deployed immunity protocols to 47 species. Their essential systems are now protected from nanobotic infection. And the bad news? Martinez sighed. The nanobots are still spreading. They have reached the galaxy's outer rim and are beginning to affect species we have never encountered. Before some of these civilizations are... She paused, choosing her words carefully. Not as peaceful as the former council members. The room grew quiet. Everyone understood what she meant. The nanobots were spreading beyond the known galaxy, potentially crippling the defenses of species that might see the chaos as an opportunity to expand their territory. General Hayes, now head of the Galactic Defense Force, spoke up. We are already seeing signs of this. Long-range sensors have detected large fleets moving toward former Council space. Species that stayed away while the Council was strong are now probing our borders. How large are we talking about? Kennedy asked. Conservative. Estimates suggest we could be facing invasion fleets numbering in the tens of thousands of ships, Hayes replied. Maybe more. The alien representatives shifted nervously in their seats. High Inquisitor Velteth, who now served as an advisor rather than a ruler, spoke in his electronic translator voice. My people remember stories from before the Council was formed. There are civilizations beyond the rim that view conquest as a natural right. They respect only strength and see weakness as an invitation to attack. Then we need to be strong. Kennedy said simply. Admiral Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic defenses. We have made progress rebuilding military capabilities. The joint fleet now includes vessels from 15 species. Total strength is approximately 3,000 ships. Against tens of thousands, Kennedy observed. Those are not good odds. No, sir, they are not. But we have advantages the enemy does not expect. Rodriguez changed the display to show new ship designs. The vessels looked different from traditional Council ships. They were sleeker, more aggressive, clearly built for war rather than peacekeeping. The Retribution-class destroyers use hybrid technology, she explained. Human quantum systems combined with crystalline energy weapons and reptilian armor plating. Each ship is effectively 3 times more powerful than anything the old Council had. And the crews? Kennedy asked. Mixed species on every vessel. Humans handle tactical systems and command decisions. Reptilians manage weapons and engineering. Crystallines operate the energy systems. Other species contribute their specialties. It was revolutionary. For the first time in galactic history, different species were working together as equals rather than as rulers and subjects. Captain Sullivan entered the chamber and saluted. She now commanded the UES Evolution, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Mr. President, we have contact with the leading elements of the invasion fleet. They are demanding surrender from all species in former Council space. What kind of species are we dealing with? Kennedy asked. The Devourers, sir. Silicon-based life forms that consume metal and use it to build more ships. They reproduce by breaking down planetary cores and using the materials to create offspring. The room fell silent. This was worse than anyone had imagined. The galaxy was not just facing conquest. It was facing extinction. How long do we have? Kennedy asked. Their advanced scouts will reach the outer colonies in 6 months, Sullivan reported. The main fleet will arrive within a year. Kennedy looked around the table at faces both human and alien. 2 years ago, these beings had been enemies. Now they were partners in survival? Recommendations? He asked. General Hayes stood up. We cannot fight them the way the Council fought wars. Traditional. Fleet engage.